All right, so it's Skully here from GoFormat.com with Bellido. Uh, we are
Hey, how are
going
you
to
doing?
we are gonna go over the GFC Euros top eight deck list, and then just talk about the upcoming metagame, FLC 13, I believe, coming up this weekend, August 15th, and then the weekend after we have GFC 9. So we'll start by checking out the eighth place deck from GFC Euros. So GFC Euros was a 52 person tournament. We ran it on a different, on a closer to like a European time zone, is why we call it the European Championship. So that meant it was like super early for North America, pretty much, and a little bit better of a time zone for Europeans. We might try it again, but the next tournament's going to be back to like 11 a.m. Eastern will be the sign up times. So we'll start
Yeah.
take a look at the eighth place deck from Commissioner Frost.
Okay, so I guess this is a chaos control variant with I guess the stuff that stands out is this Suzuki Samurai number 4. And this deck looks like it's heavily garnered to beat the Chaos Turbo because it has multiple ways to deal with face sounds. And I like it. Like with aggro not being in the format right now, like almost non-existent, these these decks have can play like a lot of these cards now, like Trap Dust Shoot. Creature Swap is big if you're seeing less Scapegoat.
That's the card I wanted to ask you
Um,
about the most in this build is Creature
yeah,
Swap. Um, do you think the tomato's not a big enough deterrent to keep Creature Swap out of a main deck?
no, I think it's worth it. A lot of the times, um, you don't want to like blindly Creature Swap anyways, and you tend to Creature Swap in a position where if you're taking a if you're letting a flip stay. Like a lot of times you can let a flip stay, and even if it flips, it's not that bad. But if it's gonna swing everything around, it's worth it. Then if the drawback is a tomato,
The interesting thing with this deck too is it doesn't have as many targets to use with your own monsters for Creature Swap as some other decks you usually see with it. Like when Goat Control usually sides in the Creature Swaps, they'll put in the third Goat with like they have this deck has one Tsukiyomi and one Sewer Priest. A lot of times you'll see like four spirits go with it, but I don't think you have
yeah,
to have four to the max out in order to do it. Like you still have your Sinister Serpent, the three goats is key, and obviously a Sewer Priest makes like turn one creature swap be able to be a thing. You got Sang in
yeah,
there.
yeah. Like you could just give up stuff to like even making creature swaps are mostly for position anyway, so you don't need to plus one. You can mostly take like a chaos monster or something that they've answered one of your things with. And this the way this deck is built is it has a lot of cards that need to be answered. So like three morphs are three TRs that need to be answered and the chaos monsters. So if you match those answers with a regular chaos turbo deck, you still have extra stuff to answer with in creature swaps. So you have like later further pushes for them answering your board.
The other thing to note too is if you do creature swap and they send you over a tomato, you're playing Thunder Dragon, so it's going to be in your hand a lot of time where you could just tribute off that tomato for the Thunder Dragon as well.
Yeah, like it's I don't think it's taking a tomato is that bad versus how like the worst thing to get is a scapegoat, but you're seeing a lot less scapegoat in the format or in the metagame right now. And it's just the drawback is not that bad. If you're getting a tomato, you can definitely give it up.
So the side deck, you see we saw this a lot from the last event do well, the triple decree, triple messenger piece,
Yeah,
and then the tomatoes are in the side here too, so that's another card that can work with the creature swaps. So what do you think of Suzuki Samurai number 4 overall?
I think it's a phenomenal metagame call right now because you just pressure through monsters, and without Sakaretsu, it's just like it has a chance to plus one. It's 1200 attack, right? So it's
Yeah,
killing Dekoichis, it's killing tomatoes if it needs to, and it's hard to run over too.
right. The only I'm trying to think of what the hard answer is from like the Turbo Chaos deck, which we'll get to later, which is obviously like the top deck right now.
Yeah,
Seemingly, they're gonna have to drop either Chaos Sorcerer to cleanly get it off the board, or like
they
even
have to use one of the discard traps.
yep, even flipping summoning a Kochi and attacking this thing is not a guarantee that that's
Yeah, it's
going to
not
get off
guaranteed.
either.
Yeah.
So
Like I played 32 or one of the bigger online tournaments, and first round I played against Calvin. Calvin Taham was playing uh aggro build with Suki Samurai, and I lost his deck, and that was like the sole reason. Like I would have to waste some of my stuff to get to kill that, and then he would just answer the stuff that I needed
I
to
would
answer.
I would say the biggest issue with this card, it puts you in a position where sometimes you literally have to summon it and attack a chaos monster.
Yeah,
Like you'll just look at your hand and be like, this is the play, and I have to
yeah,
rely on this flip coin. But that's not the majority of the time that you're using the card. The majority of the time, like you said, you're attacking a face down monster. You're forcing your
yeah.
opponent to use a card they really would rather use on like your chaos monster instead of on a Sasuke Samurai #4. So definitely, I think it's a card we're gonna keep seeing more of here and there.
The worst thing about it is its wind, right? Its attribute. I think its attribute's wind.
Yeah, it's a wind.
Yeah. The only thing I may switch in this deck is maining a snatch over a creature swap.
Yep.
And then when you side into the tomatoes and put in the extra swap,
Yeah,
then I'd make that swap. But I think I like this deck.
I like the side deck too. Like I
Yeah.
don't love Skill Dark Magician as a card in general right now. I don't think it has the most value, but
Yeah, like
every other card in this side I think is it's a well made side deck.
yeah, definitely warrants space. Like Skull Dark Magician, you're putting in against aggro, I would assume, but you're gonna lock yourself up when you have Messenger Piece.
Right.
So like you're not gonna connect.
I'd say maybe the second Mobius probably would have played there instead of the Skill Dark. Just looking at
Yeah,
it generically.
Mobius is crazy right now. So,
All right, so
but yeah, I think we can move on
move on to seventh place deck. So here we have Delinquent, always with a cool
with the
deck.
burn deck. Yeah,
So we got the Gravekeeper engine. Necro Valley is obviously super strong right now. Everybody's on Chaos.
yeah.
And then Burn mixed with it. What do you think?
No, I like it. He likes to do these like smoke screen side decks into different decks. And game one, like he should win almost every game one. I'm curious to what he lost to.
What?
Uh,
The cards I'm not immediately sold on in here are Curse of the Royal and Spell Shield Type 8. I think I could see the argument for Spell Shield Type 8, the fact that it could stop Nobleman for free. But
yeah.
Curse of the Royal, I believe, doesn't even negate Heavy Storm.
What is it? It's when it targets one, right?
Yeah, so it'll stop Breaker, it'll stop Mystical, it'll stop Dust Tornado, which we really aren't seeing anymore. I guess it does stop Regeki Break as well. But yeah, will
Yeah.
not stop Heavy Storm.
I mean, like you could switch those for maybe fake traps because fake traps do the same thing, right?
Yeah, so the only difference is Fake Trap won't be able to protect your level limit or your Wave Motion Cannon or your Necro Valley, though.
Oh, that's right. Only face downs.
But it does leave you with only Solemn stopping Heavy Storm with a pretty heavy back row deck. The cool part about Necro Valley in these decks, too, though, is you could set 5 back rows and Necro Valley as a negation card. Like that 6th zone as like Necro Valley is like a kind of like a pseudo skill drain in itself.
Yeah. If you count the type of outs that are in main decks and side decks versus your answers here, like you don't have enough. They have enough negation to stop every piece of removal.
This is one of those decks where I wonder maybe he lost to someone playing like a Giant Trunade deck. Like these decks look great of nothing can stop them, but Giant Trunade actually blows these decks out of the water. Like that's the difference of when like the CO burn deck was good when Giant Trunade was limited to 1 and not played at all. Really was that like once you had Skill Drain and a Solomon or a Dark Bribe, there was really almost impossible without Decree to get these things off the board. But in
they had six negates, right?
Right, but in this format, you have to use these cards like Curse of the Royal or like it's stuff that Giant Trunade's not affected by, and Royal Decree is seen way more in Goat format. So I think that's where these Wave Motion Cannon Skill Drain decks fall apart kind of in Goat format. Is Giant Trunade's actually played in decks like Reasoning Gate or like Rescue Cat, so you can run into it more often than you would have in formats where you see these wave motion skill drain decks really thrive.
Yeah, and with Mobius being like coming back now, there's a lot of ways to like if their only defense to Mobius is like a skill drain, for example. There's so many ways to still trigger it with like a torrential, or people are still on triple Book of Moon or
Regeki
a
break.
ring. Regeki break your own Mobius if you tribute for it, and it'll still go off.
Right, destroy two other ones, and then
Yeah.
so there's lots of. I guess Regeki break you'd probably use on the skill drain instead,
Hmm.
but yeah, there's definitely ways to trigger Mobius more. I don't have too much more else to say about this deck.
I think I liked his. So when do you think you would side into the Gravekeeper? Like game two, regardless, when you think decrees are coming in.
I guess you just side out as many traps as you can, right? And let
So
them.
what are the? I think the triple solemn, triple skill drain, ring, and maybe ceasefire would be the only ones that would stay.
Yeah, I mean
You take out.
the wheels are easy to take out. The Curse of
The,
Royals, so that's 5, 7 cards. You probably are taking out even more than that. Honestly, you're probably only leaving in. I would say maybe just the Solemns and the Ring.
you think this? Well, he would take out the messenger, the stall cards.
Maybe you keep
So
one wave motion. Oh yeah, the level limits. That's true.
all the stall cards would come out.
So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah. So if you take out the skill drains, the curses and the spell shields and the stall cards, that's about 15 cards with the wave motions and the level limits out and the wave and the messengers. It's probably some variation of it. Like a lot of times you could leave in one wave motion cannon or something too with these.
Yeah. Other than that, I mean, like, burn is burn. Burn's like solid game one. I'm just wondering what he goes to game three. If he wins game one, game two, they side decrees, and or let's say he manages to lose game two when they side decrees, because he could still shut off a lot of stuff.
I bet he actually
But
keeps the wave motions in, looking at like the smashings and the noblemans and stuff. You're kind of just trying to deal as much damage as fast as you can.
yeah, definitely could see that.
The issue that comes up too with a deck like this, though, like he's putting in terraforming, so you're still kind of relying on Necro Valley, and your opponent's probably bringing in stuff like Mobius and Dust Tornado and extra spell and trap removal, if not like this, not just Decree. But
Yeah.
as we discussed, like the 3 Decree and Messenger thing is super popular, so
Yeah, and triple decree messenger would shut down this deck. Like it couldn't. The only monsters that could attack are Mystic Tomato.
that's why you see him still bringing in, I think, the Breaker, the Heavy, and the MST, just because I guess you're not going to side in unless you have an idea what he's going to swap into. You're not going to side in your Messenger for game 2.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
Yeah,
nice
solid
play
deck.
by Delinquent, solid deck. We've seen Necro Valley be a pretty key card lately, so 6th place we're looking at Goat Control.
Yeah, and a deck that like to me, it's like very noble right now to run Goal Control, especially since it's weak to. It's perceived to be weaker to Chaos Turbo.
You're gonna play the Honest deck.
Yeah, but I still truly believe that Goal Control's worst matchup was aggro.
Yep, it was the 3 Blade Knights.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's what was blowing Goat Control back, was the 3 Blade Knights.
Like he's I hate to jump into the side deck so quickly, but he's siding a card that I think is very good against the Chaos Turbo deck too, in Ojama Trio.
Okay, why do you think that is?
Because if you let them resolve a Gravekeeper Spy, for example, or even if they're just setting on, like they set a Dekoichi and then set a monster after, and you Ojama Trio them,
Yep.
you can actually just lock them out. The only way they could break their own board if they're not playing. So a lot of the Chaos Turbo decks don't run the mass removal, doesn't run torrential, and they don't run tribe. So the only way they can clear their own to make space is either ram a monster or
Regeki Break,
like
Ring.
Regeki break their own, summon or ring, summon Chaos Sorcerer, banish to make space, but they're wasting stuff to do that.
Yeah, so I've tried for a long time now to make and I still kind of work on it as like a side project, is to make the Ojama Trio lock deck out tech with that and like spatial collapse, and against a player that doesn't is not like well seasoned, I guess I'll say, the just Ojama Trio can throw them off by a lot of
Yeah.
locking up their board. Like there's players that won't realize they need to start ramming things into your monsters until it's way too late.
Yep.
So it's definitely a cool card. The other big thing for it is if you think you're going to come up against Library, FTK, having an Ojama Trio token on the board does not let them resolve Reversal Quiz because they can't send a token to the graveyard.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I didn't know that.
The card I don't get in here is Berserk Gorilla.
I don't get it either because it doesn't deal with the biggest issue with Go Control
Chaos.
right now is Gravekeeper Spy.
Gravekeeper
So-
Spy and Chaos Sorcerer.
Yeah, it's and Air Knight doesn't do anything there as well. Like, the reason I like main deck Mobius or even Zaborg over Air Knight is if you want to stay with light and level 5, I go Zaborg, and a lot of people say, oh, Zaborg's not. Zaborg is weak to like Tsukiyomis and weak to going 1-for-1. But not many people are playing Tsukiyomi right now, and being able to guarantee destroy face down without it triggering is very, very big. And say it manages to live one turn versus the Chaos Turbo deck, they need to waste a sorcerer to out it.
The other card I'm not sure that I get is Gravekeeper's Guard instead of Spy.
Guard, yeah. I think Guard is horrible right now.
Yeah, I'm trying
Like,
to think
I don't-
of any advantages of having Guard here.
Like,
I
Guard
mean-
was good when you could bounce a TR, right? But
Well, you never
after it sucks something up.
not
but-
really, because you can't flip summon it.
Yeah, like, they would literally need to hit it.
I guess the only advantage I see for Guard is he is playing the double Suki, so like the Guard Suki lock is a real thing. And
Yeah.
you're more likely to get it with double Suki, double Guard. I've definitely won games and seen people win games with the Guard Suki lock. What do you think of the decrees in the main deck too? The four.
I like it.
The four
I
best
think
traps and 2 decrees. That was played a lot in 2005 that people don't realize.
Yeah, the only reason it wasn't as popular is Decree was only TP, right? So it was only ultra rare.
Yeah, so
And
it
it
was,
was-
like over $100, and we were
Like,
like 14.
That
so we
was
didn't
crazy.
have it.
I didn't own Decree till like it came out
Dark Beginning
in like
2
maybe
is probably what I
yeah,
got.
or a Hobby League, whichever one came out first.
Yeah, I
Like
think-
I didn't have a Decree or whatever was common.
Maybe it came in common in a starter deck before that even, but the wrong
Yeah.
starter deck or something like that is coming to mind. I'm not sure, but I definitely did not have it until it was printed out of tournament pack. Either.
And if he's going Decrees, I feel like maybe an extra Book of Moon is better than a Call. Well, Call is good with Air Knight. Like if you're running Air Knight, Call and Prima are big.
Yeah, and the Abyss Soldiers in the deck.
Yeah, like Abyssal. Like the more I think about it now, that Azure Priest lock with the Gravekeeper Guard is pretty good because I've won a lot of games where I just had a running a Abyss Soldier, being able to bounce whatever they set.
Well, we've said before is the goat decks need to get more aggressive, and
Yeah,
that's a card that does let them get more aggressive. It's really compared to Spy, it's not too big of a difference as far as a wall right now. Like Blade Knight is a card, but I think Blade Knight's seen less play in the last 2-3 months than it did beforehand
Yeah.
at the start of the summer. So what other areas would you actually rather have a Spy instead of a Guard? Against the
in the
Chaos
mirror,
Knight?
in the mirror match, I think I'd rather have a Guard. I mean a Spy,
For what reason?
because like it's hard to get by 2,000 defenders.
True, I guess 1,000 eyes can clear out this board compared to a spy.
Yeah, like if this is just set and it resolves one, all you need is a sinister meta or a TR just to answer it.
But I guess you got to be making your decks at this point planning to play against chaos decks.
Exactly.
Not planning to play against Go Control. So I think I actually do like the guard.
Yeah, it's something that hasn't got a lot of love in this new current metagame. Even from maybe like the last like 2-3 years, it kind of fallen off.
Mm-hmm.
Before you used to see the lineup
2 spy,
of
1
guard, 2 spy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the way talking it up, I can see the thought process of running the guard. The only card that I don't know that I'm not getting here is the Berserkerilla.
Berserkerilla, yeah.
Maybe you're just expecting to see more aggro decks than you did.
Yeah, and with less Sakuretsus, less Tsukiyomis to punish it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued to see if he actually did side Ojama versus the Chaos deck, or if it was just there for the random.
Yeah, it could have just been for the library.
Yeah.
Alright, so then 5th place, we have myself here.
Your deck.
Return from Different Dimension deck. So, preface to this, I did not use this deck before the tournament ever. Jonathan LeBounty sent me this deck like a week before the tournament, and I did not test play it at all. I hate the side deck. I hate the Morphing Jar in the main. But overall, the deck itself, the games I won pretty aggressively and over the top for wins that I got with it.
Yeah, you probably had an answer to almost every play they made, or
yeah,
they were just like making 1 or 2 like T setting to whatever you had. It was very hard for them to answer your boards. Like, it looks like an aggro deck, but it locks down a lot of stuff. Like, it locks down answers, and then out of nowhere with Return, Solemns, and Dust Tornado set it up. Like, you're gonna game shot them out of nowhere.
right. The craziest cards in this deck, I would say, were Compulsory and Kaiku. Compulsory let me set up boards where it was like pretty decent board. Oh, you return, and then all of a sudden, just compulsing their 1 monster back made the difference of being able to make a game shot or not. The triple compulse was like, looking at it on paper, I was like, what? Why are these in here? And
Yeah.
the answer was it just made the game's end.
Yeah, like, instead of having to risk attacking through a face down, it maybe being a Gravekeeper Spy, just like the card that would be the alternative would be Book of Moon.
That's what I was just about to say. And
it's Book of Moon doesn't help you game shot, right?
Right. So I would be able to be like, okay, I can compulse attack into the open board or something, and if they Sakuretsu or Regeki break my monster, I was like, oh, now I can just flip return and the game is over.
Yeah.
And then the only other card that I want to point out as being just really nutty in here was Kaiku. There was definitely games where I was behind on cards and able to just summon Kaiku to the field and just leave them there. And if they didn't already have a Chaos Monster out, they could be sitting on a dead hand for 2 to 3 turns after that. And then by then I have a Ring of Destruction or a Return or one of my own 4 Chaos Monsters. And that was a big blowout card that a lot more than I expected it to be.
Yeah, like I've played LeBounty a couple times when he was running this deck, and he's done like some cool stuff where he would make a board, and like I'd have 2 or 3 cards left in hand, and he'd look to make sure it's the right, like it's an okay play to do, where he would return 2 Kaikus or one Kaiku for defense, just so I couldn't answer his board, because he knows my only way to answer his board is with the Chaos Monster. So like you could use it for deep, like not necessarily like attacking defense, like just protecting your board type of defense. Yeah.
No, there were games where I would go like summon Kaiku, set Compulsory, my opponent, and set Compulsory, set Return. My opponent has a set monster. On their turn, compulse the set monster. Next turn, return for a crazy field. They couldn't do anything because I bounced their draw card or their Magician of Faith. The Chaos Sorcerer's dead in their hand, and then just put a crazy board out and be able to attack for game.
Yeah, for sure. And you could do like Compulse has a lot of crazy stuff where like you can compulse back a BLS, banish I mean, return back a BLS, banish, bounce it to hand, summon it again.
Right, yeah. You summon a Kaiku, compulse their Chaos Sorcerer, they can't summon it again. Or, like,
Yeah.
even just, there were games where I would, like, turn one, summon a Kaiku, maybe not turn one, but, like, mid-game, have a Kaiku out, just set a Solemn Judgment, and then Solemn a, like, Graceful Charity or something, and they're like, well, now my hand is dead for the rest of this game, because you Solemn this Graceful Charity, because a Kaiku
Yeah.
was on board, and my only answer is to try to Regeki break it, and I have Chaos Monsters in my hand.
That's where I feel like this deck has a tougher chance, maybe a tougher matchup against Chaos Control, where they have like Tsukiyomis, they have
Yep.
Morphs, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But I know you hated the side deck, but his side deck was pretty good against us when, like, the deck on paper looks like aggro.
Mm-hmm.
It is aggro, and when they side into triple messenger, triple decree, and you preemptively assume that everyone is on that side deck, and you go into go control, like, it's over. You destroy them.
So here's where I would change with the side deck. I wouldn't even say the whole side deck is awful. I would change. I think the side deck really needed Royal Decrees. And that's probably more biased because I lost to a return
You lost
and I
to
lost to a
burn.
burn deck. So, like, both times I go to the side, I'm like, I really wish I had Decrees here. So, like, maybe I would cut, like, a Go MST maybe, or the Ceasefire, or just, like, the Merchant maybe, and just to fit, like, 2 or 3 Decrees in, and I would have been plenty happy with it.
Yeah, I have a variant of this where my side deck is... I don't go into decrees, I side similar, but I go into Mobiuses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like I said, losing to burn is definitely a bias after the fact of like, oh, if I had Decree, I would have been in a better spot. But no, I think Return in general still a super underrated card in GOAT format.
Yes, 100%.
We saw like the Chaos Warrior deck take off for a bit, and I really thought that Return was going to be the deck to come out of that, and this is kind of still a variant of that, like. The Blade Knights the triple Blade Knight was a big thing for that Warrior deck, and I think the Kaiku Blade Knight Return package, that Chaos Sorcerer seems to be like a triple staple to be winning these tournaments. I think you're going to see something like this somewhere again.
Yeah, again, the hardest thing for this deck to deal with are multiple Gravekeeper Spies. You literally have to waste power cards to answer them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's definitely up there. If we redo a tier list, it would make its way to like top tier.
And I got fifth.
Just it doesn't get enough.
I got 5th place in this tournament. I would say mostly on this deck build alone because I have not been playing. I was rusty, and 55-person tournament and had a pretty good record, so I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
All right, so 4th place. So Simpson, who knocked me out of the tournament actually, with a single return.
Yeah, and like what we were saying, it's a chaos control deck that gives your deck the hardest matchup.
Again, the one card I'm not big on right now is Skill Dark. I think I do kind of like the just going down to double meta and double Chaos Sorcerer for these decks.
Yep.
I think could give some good consistency instead of because like if you're gonna play Chaos Control instead of Turbo, you should be going for consistency, right?
Yeah. I would honestly rather like a Kaiku in that spot.
Yep.
The only thing like it doesn't deal with is like maybe Abyss Soldiers,
Tsukiyomi,
yeah.
That's a short list.
Yeah. You faced them. So what did you see? Did you just get like regular chaos controlled? Where
I believe we went to game 3, and the single return blew me out out of nowhere. I don't want to say things that are incorrect just from not remembering. I like the sideboard here. I think Stein's a cool card when you're already siding decrees.
Yep.
Another card that's good against Royal Magical Library.
So against Magical Library, you just Stein out a Last Warrior. Is that what it is?
So there's 2 theories on it. Some people try to bring out a Bolter to stop like their one big spell to get a turn out of it. I personally
the big spell that you would normally stop there?
I guess a giant Trunade.
Is it the Trunade?
Yeah, I'm not positive. I personally would bring out Last Warrior against the deck.
So would I.
Yeah, because the only way they're going to get around that is if they side it in the a lot of them will side in the well not say a lot. The best card you could side deck if you're playing Royal Magical Library for your opponent's side deck is the Concealing Swords.
To put a face down. You could even side deck Book, right? Book of Moonworks on all this stuff
Yeah, but
that.
yeah,
Well,
you could do Book as well. Concealing Swords is probably a little bit better.
because it draws you. It
It
prevents attacking, I guess.
Yeah, it could
Well, it
prevent
stops the
attacking as
monsters that
well.
were on the board, right?
Mhm.
So.
And they can't flip summon them next turn either. I don't have too. This is a pretty standard.
Yeah.
Besides the return, and I don't have too much to say about it, to be honest.
For
Kicked my ass. So.
my general observation of Gold format right now is from the three most common decks: Chaos Turbo, Chaos Control, and Go Control. Chaos Control has the most possible answers, but it's really hard to piece together everything. Like, it's the slowest deck.
Mm-hmm.
It has usually the ugliest opening hands.
Yep.
But if you manage to grind out a little bit further, they're answering your power card, your normal cards with their power cards, and you have enough answers for them. But it's just getting to that point.
Yeah, I like the return in this build a lot.
Yeah, it's like one of those cards that come out of nowhere to help you steal a game.
Right. Yeah, Dust Shoot main I like. Everyone's on Thunder Dragon, so Dust Shoot is a really
Dust Shoot's
like now.
I don't. There's a lot of hate for Dust Shoot online right now, and I a lot of it is theory. Like, people just speaking, oh, it's dead. It's just you're letting your opponent. You're just delaying the inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
You're not. You're changing that play, that turn. It means he's not gonna summon that Chaos Sorcerer to answer this board. He'll have it later if it gets to that point. But if you're able to break something up, or if you're able to make a positional play, knowing your opponent's hand, like there's such thing as positional plays on certain turns that you wouldn't make, but it's hard to get a read, and Dust Shoot will let you get there.
What do you think in a deck like this, if it had Mind Crush main decked?
I think it's harder to use. Like, for me, I like Mind Crush because the only time I'll ever blind Mind Crush is if I'm gonna lose. Like, I was playing a match where I had Thunder Dragon in hand, and I went end phase, Regeki Break, hit the back row. It was a Mind Crush. He activated it and called the other Thunder Dragon in my hand when he was at like 5,000, and he had a Sangan face up. I'm like, I would definitely call BLS at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I had a BLS. My other card was BLS.
Now, what do you think in decks that main deck Cyberjar, main deck in Mind Crush with it?
Yeah, that's actually that's good. I think that the theory is good behind it, but
yeah, that just came to my mind now as we were discussing
Mind
Crush. I was like, how? Like, this card seems like it's got a place besides the side deck somewhere. I'm not. Maybe if the Trap Dust Shoot keep making it in mind, like if you're main decking Trap Dust Shoot and Cyberjar, I could maybe see main deck in a Mind Crush.
The reason why I think Mind Crush Dust Shoot is obviously better versus Mind Crush is one, you don't need to guess.
Turn one.
And
way better.
Yeah, and on a Mind Crush, if they have like a Regeki Break, you take a huge neg. They're gonna discard it anyways.
What I find with the issue with Mind Crush, a lot of times that people don't talk about, is the fact you have to have a card in your hand to activate it.
I know a lot. The majority of people I play against now know it, but I've seen, like, I played on Dueling Book a few times where they would just throw up a Mind Crush. I'm like, yeah, you can't.
Yeah, like, I've sided in and be like, wow, I have to make a kind of awkward play if I want to set this Mind Crush. Like, mid to late game, you don't always have a card in your hand. You want to leave in your hand. Sure, if you have a Thunder Dragon or Sinister, fantastic. But sometimes you're just like, wow, I want to play everything and set the Mind Crush, and that's just not an option. The fact that you have to have a card in your hand, I think, comes up more than people think about it too much when they're put in a main or a side deck.
Yeah, definitely late game, late mid game, mostly late game.
Oh,
But like Dust Shoot is completely dead late game. Where
well, top decked, the top decked mine trap dust shoot might be better than mine crush though.
yeah, for sure. But top
So
deck you're probably losing anyways, right? Then that if you're top
yeah, you
decking
don't
and
want to
your
draw either
Dust
of
Shoot's
them.
gonna
Yeah.
resolve, he's gonna draw. He has 4 cards.
Although top decked mine crush, if you didn't have to have a card in your hand, being able to call a chaos monster could be the whole change of the game as well.
Yep.
All right, so go over to the other person who beat me.
Shinzo and Tonic.
Shinzo Tonic.
I love this guy.
So yeah, Shinzo Tonic's awesome. So 42 deck. What do you think?
I like one of the decks I played a lot and never got to play at a Shonen Jump because I think there were no events during that time was Baboon Burn.
So there was one. Jeff Jones, I believe, topped it or at least had feature matches with where you could Nimble could die and you could summon Baboon.
Yeah, we only had a regionals
Maybe,
at that time,
okay,
and I played it.
It was a short while. For Yu-Gi-Oh, we actually went and made the ruling for it be that Baboon did work when a monster is destroyed by battle.
So in like damage step, you could activate it, right?
Yeah, so for people that don't know, when Baboon first came out, if your monster died by battle and damage step, you could summon the Baboon. After that,
Yeah.
they changed it where it had to die by a card effect, which just completely ruined the card. Made it almost useless, honestly.
So we were back on Baboon Burn really quick. When we were playing it, I if I can remember correctly, it was we were gonna play it at the next Shonen Jump, which was Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
But then that the regionals before, Lazaro made the card a safe return zombie deck with Illblood.
Okay.
And then that's what phases out like us dropping Baboon Burn for like this way better like zombie deck. But I remember like Baboon Burn was one of my favorite. Like it stole games.
So, to this deck in particular, when I was playing against it, I thought I was playing against a Rescue Cat deck the entire time. The main
Yeah,
deck,
he doesn't even play Rescue.
No, it doesn't even play one. But I saw Last Will. I was like, okay, Last Will, Beast Monsters. There's got to be a Rescue Cat in here, right? So that's what I was thinking the entire time I played against it. I was like, I just need to beat this deck as fast as possible before I have to deal with the Rescue Cat crap. And game one, that strategy worked. I played super aggressive and beat him game one. But the Nimbles, man, the other game 2 and 3, him gaining the life points definitely was a pain and set me back. There is not good answers for dealing with Nimbles. They're not going to keep card advantage with just the Nimbles, but the gaining 3,000 life points could be huge.
Yeah, no, I watched. I definitely watched the replay after, and like a little bit of lucky draws from Jinzo Tonic's side, but part of it is like it's the deck, right? It's just how the deck works. There's so many. He had so many cards. Like sure, he top decked to beat you, but there was multiple cards in his deck that he could have drawn to beat you.
He top decked the Just Desserts, but he could have drew the Secret Barrel. He could have drew a Ceasefire.
You could drew.
It was a
Panda, I think.
Yeah, it was a heartbreaking spot to see the Just Desserts because I felt like I was in control of that last game, but that is what it is. That's what the deck's meant to do.
Like if you were to change any, I feel like I would. The deck could fit a Rescue Cat.
Yeah, I don't see how you fit Last Will into this main without a Rescue Cat.
Like if anything, like I would cut Duo, and I would cut, and just maybe try to get to 40.
Where do you how do you fit Last Will in here with the only card to trigger it is either ramming a monster, exiled force, and doesn't even play Torrential Tribute.
Yeah, Tribute for Mobius.
I guess that's the main deck play.
But like if you're
Cyberjar.
tributing from Cyberjar.
Yeah,
I mean he made it quite far.
Yeah,
so.
Third place is great for this. Especially with how many people were citing the decrees.
Yeah.
I don't like Roller Oppression ever in GOAT format.
No, I think it's horrible.
I think it's just a bad card. I think I actually used it against him in the match, if I'm not mistaken.
Imagine like him having Royal Oppression up and cards like Ojama Trio that he can't activate.
If I'm not, I might be mistaken. I think I Royal Oppression his Ojama Trio. I'm pretty sure I did.
I mean, he did 800 instead of 900 there, so.
Yeah, and -1 himself.
Yeah.
That was another
But I
thing
mean,
when I was
like,
playing against this deck. There was a point. I think game 2 that I lost. It was like if any. I think it was at like 100 life points. I was like, if any Ojama dies, I lose this game, and like needed to get them off the board. Ojometry itself is a really really good card.
it's actually so good. Like the Go Control deck that we were talking about that was siding it, like, you could bring it in against that matchup, and like even against Chaos Control, for example, if you just hit 2 goats and lock them up, you win that game.
Mm-hmm.
You just literally don't do anything as long as you're ahead on cards, or I guess behind on cards in the deck. You'll deck them out. But yeah, I mean, normal Beast Burn deck, I guess. Not the. I feel like the Rescue Cat deck is stronger.
Yeah, like this deck has a lot of like weird like tech cards in it. Like even the one Wave Motion Cannon, I would think you would be better off just having like a Rescue Cat in that spot even. And
Yeah.
going down to 40 cards. I don't see the advantage of 42 in this build either.
Like you could go into, like Rescue Cat, you'd have True Nades. You could side into like Stein, but I think Rescue Cat's just a better version of.
And then for like Thousand Eyes Restrict outs in this deck, it has
One Book of Moon, Tribe.
One Book of Moon, Tribe, Exiled Force.
Ring.
So 4 cards.
And Cyber, like,
Cyber
yeah.
Jar is not.
Cyber Jar, but
I won't even give
not
it
really.
It's like a half answer.
Yeah. I mean, less people playing Go Control.
Yeah,
definitely game. Like I played them.
Goat Control, but there's still plenty of people playing Chaos Control with the.
Which is still
like,
kind of.
It's just as.
I guess he got the beat up
when it's maxed
on
out,
all the aggro decks.
Yeah. I don't know. I think a pure closer to Rescue Cat build is probably better, even if you were cutting like a giant rat for a Rescue Cat, or the like we said the Wave Motion Cannon. Your Premature Burial is better when you have Rescue Cat. Your Last Will's better when you have Rescue Cat. So that's my only critique for this deck. Really is I don't think Royal Oppression's a great card, and I would fit Rescue Cat in here somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if
you got the Stein in your side too, like come on.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go to second place, Krebs 619, and this would
definitely a fan of this. This looks like Everfall's deck, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Very close to Everfall's deck. The Mobius, the
Azura's Spies.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's
Goat Control 2.0.
Yeah, it's the newer version of Go Control, and I think it gives the Chaos Turbo deck a tough match.
Triple Sakaretsu, what do you think there?
I think there's better traps.
Yeah, that was gonna be my first thing.
Way better. Like, Solemn Judgment is gonna be a huge card in the next whatever FLC or next GFC.
If it was Solemn, even in this build, like, it makes your Mobiuses better, it makes your creature swaps better, it makes your BLS better, your Sewer Priest better.
Like your the only real stuff you want a Sakaretsu is like an Azure Priest for your goats. Maybe an Air Knight. But like when you have Gravekeeper Spy, having Solemn Judgment is just way, way better. It's so hard to break.
Triple Spy, 1 guard.
Yeah.
Which we're talking about if that.
The one Tsukiyomi, which I don't mind the one Tsukiyomi here because the way he's doing it is after let's say he loses a Tsukiyomi, his Mobiuses are coming down to tribute the TR. No
breaker.
There's a breaker right beside BLS.
Oh, okay.
No tribe.
I see it.
No tribe.
No tribe. All right. Yeah, not in the main or side.
Which is okay here, because for me I like tribe to answer Gravekeeper Spies.
What I
But like
like,
you can answer it with Mobius's here.
true. What I like about Tribe too, though, just besides Spy, is if your opponent puts out a Sorcerer with a Spy, you can clear a whole board, and that's like
And
a
that's
common
super
play at
common.
this point.
That's so common.
However, Spy, Chaos Sorcerer, Metamorphosis also answers both cards.
Yep. I think my favorite thing about Mobius is that it's level 6, and it gives you two of the strongest fusions against Chaos Turbo and Chaos Control in Ryu
Yep.
Senshi and Darkblade,
Krebs actually has the third Mobius sided here too.
which is fine. Like for me, I go like my main deck right now has one's a Borg, one Mobius,
Mm-hmm.
and it's siding the third Monarch, which is normally Mobius for the hate for like I bring it in versus like the random stuff. Like I'll bring it in against Delinquent. I'll bring it in against.
Yep.
I might accidentally bring it in against what's it called against the Jinzone Tonic. It's probably not that good there, but
Yeah. I like the Kaikus at the side. The Kinetic Soldiers, I'm not
not
really
needed.
sold on. I think that's like a tournament behind this current event here where Warrior was. The thing is, like
Like
the
three
Warrior
tournaments,
deck like
yeah.
ran through people for 2 tournaments,
Yes.
and then just literally nobody played it. It dropped off. Like the Warrior deck is, I think Spy just said, "Okay, Warrior deck, you're done."
It wasn't Spy. It was a Decree Messenger. It
Decree
literally,
Messenger, yeah.
yeah. Decree Messenger shut down
Spy in the main does
that.
not help that deck either, though.
Oh, like Blade Knight is nothing now.
Right.
I think
say
Blade
say
Knight
a,
is so weak.
say a Blade Knight or even a Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke attacks into a Spy. That's still that's like 3 more turns before that Grandmaster is gonna be able to deal with all these spies.
Yes. And like even if you creature swap for face down and take a Spy, that's okay. If you take a Tomato, that's okay. You're gonna tribute for Mobius. Um, I think if he had even like Dust Shoot might be better than Saku here.
Yeah. Saku, it's hard to see the argument for.
Like
I'm not sure what the
I wonder
argument
what.
is.
Yeah, like he has 7 tools in the side deck. I would rather have a Solemn there as well. If I were to, like, I would play a very similar deck to this, and instead of the Kinetic Soldiers, I might even go to like an Abyss Soldier, or another Kaiku. Like this deck is just overall solid. I love the fact that people are like in Go Control. They're coming away from Dekoichi because resolving a Dekoichi kind of is not the greatest anymore. Because
Oh,
if they
if
just
you
ram a tomato,
yeah, if you leave it up, you flip someone to Kochi and they ram a tomato, you're like, there
yeah,
goes the plus I got off the Kochi, and now I got to deal with whatever just came off this tomato.
yeah, like see that's where Saku would be warranted. But like, you don't have a Dekoichi that you're flipping.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I could let you flip a Spy, attack for 12, leave one in defense, and Sakuretsu next turn, but yeah,
Yeah,
I don't, I don't love
I
it.
don't care if I don't care if the Spy dies at that point.
Right,
It's
it's
and now
already
I have
flowing.
a face up Spy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is a good deck. I like
No, yeah, I mean, besides the
Everfall was onto
Sakuretsu,
something when he.
Mobius and Creature Swap, right? Removal of the call, removal of the premature, make less dead hands, opening turn. I guess,
Yeah.
like, I want to say the Sakuretsu's there. It's like, oh, it stops Blade Knight at least, but it's like the only flips you even care about Blade Knight with this deck is the 2 Magicians and 1 Merchant.
Yeah.
I guess clearing the board for a Sewer Priest is nice. Like, if they attack with anything at all, you get him for another 17 to keep that aggressive tempo going.
Yeah, like playing if you were to test this and you see Psalms, you find yourself in much brighter positions where you're like, oh, I could actually make this push now. But I think I feel that Go Control should still be playing premature because you need to. It's one of those cards that you build pieces, especially since he's not running Tribe,
Mm-hmm.
to try and kill. But
Like,
other than that, like I see why he came second.
Yeah, like say you lose your BLS in this with this deck here, it gets duoed, or if it gets literally destroyed at all, I guess. You're
Yeah.
really relying on your normal summons of these Mobiuses go resolving.
Yeah.
Like how are you dealing damage?
You're
with
hoping to
this?
swap maybe. You're hoping to swap like a Chaos Monster when it answers something, But then even if you have Sakus there, it's hard to make that push without Solemns, in my opinion.
Right. No Dust Tornadoes in this build either, so it's like you have your two Mobiuses, which covers that a little bit, but then you're down to Heavy Storm and Mystical to make your big push for game. I think the
Yeah.
Everfall deck list and this are on the right path for where Go Control needs to be, but they
Yeah.
still need a little bit of work.
Yeah, for sure. No, but I would definitely run with something like that.
Mm-hmm. So that leaves us to the back-to-back winner of P-Tranks, Peter, with Chaos, and this time he sided into Necrovalleys.
He was just, I'm sure he was just doing that for fun. but I mean, it worked out. He was telling me, I think he sided in against LeBounty. He played LeBounty, and he played a Geisty, and it said it worked. He said it worked both times in those
I
matchups.
believe he beat Geist in this tournament.
Yeah, he played LeBounty in this tournament too, I think.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, he beat them both in this
He
tournament.
because I was talking to him about it, and I asked him when's the only time you would side that. He's like, oh, I sided in against LeBounty and Geist, and those were the only times it worked.
So,
But I mean, standard Chaos Control. He is maining, not Chaos Control, Chaos Turbo. He is maining the Dust Shoots, which I thought were going to be big.
cut the card.
The thing that's not being, I think, because he expected to play a lot more of the mirror match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Up to four of the discard traps now.
I think that's good. I would run like a card like Torrential. I like Torrential still. I know you're building a board here, or maybe even not Torrential. Mirror Force is good to answer.
Do you like the one Solemn?
Yeah.
What about the one Jar of Greed? That seems.
I don't like the Jar of Greed, right? Like, my lineup is very similar to this, but I'm running double Solemn and no Jar of Greed, and I have a Mirror Force over the Wing Blast.
What do you think of Breaker being pushed to the side for these?
I main it,
like Breaker,
but it like never.
Breaker just being able to seemingly hit like one of the discard traps or a ring or something.
Eat a Book of Moon,
and then summon a cast monster after it. Seems like should be a standard good play, right?
Yeah, the deck just likes to set. Like it makes you play bad noblemans.
Mm-hmm. I get what you're saying.
Like, I like his side in. Oh, okay. So I like two cards in the side deck. In Swordsman level 2.
Yep.
I think this deck should be siding Kaiku for the mirror match. Because it's just Kaiku is gonna absorb, either it's gonna lock them down or it's gonna absorb a trap or a spell that is needed to answer one of your chaos monsters or protect the chaos monster.
So he did defeat Jinzo here. I was gonna say this seems like one of the decks that with no decree and stuff actually could have lost to Jinzo and Tonic's deck between the Ojama trios and the burn cards, but he beat him.
Yeah, there's just
I think Peter's
some
also
stuff
a more
that
experienced player too, so
yeah.
But I would
there's
think
just some stuff
matchup.
that they can't do.
Do you think Triple Magician of Faith is still the way to go?
Yes. Yeah.
Because the spells are getting lower and lower in these decks now.
It's not so much that, it's being able to set a Faith and have one in hand and let it get knocked.
Yep. This is down to 9 spells now.
Yeah. It's because Upstart Goblin, like, in theory, it just makes an earlier Magician of Faith live, but this deck has a hard time killing.
Mm-hmm. Which, surprisingly, most of these Chaos decks do.
Yeah.
I think the difference of these decks being able to kill and Goat Control is Air Knight, where Air Knight can just start ending games with a call and a preemie with that, or could just take a roll where, oh wow, the Air Knight attacked me 2 to 3 times in a row, whereas one Scapegoat against a Chaos Sorcerer until you get a second monster on the board is not going to be handling anything.
Yeah. Like the most common way, one of the most common ways that this deck loses is deck out. Like
For sure.
they get
This
decked out by
this
go
and
control.
chaos control, honestly.
Yeah, like that's the problem with chaos control is where like it has so many strong cards, but it's so hard to piece it together. Like it has answers for almost anything, but it's not usually the best answer at the right time. Where like even if this deck has a hard time dealing with Gravekeeper Spies, imagine having to deal through like a wall of Gravekeeper Spies and like scapegoats.
Yeah, I think Scapegoat's probably still one of the best answers for this deck in general.
Yeah, like the third scapegoat should be an automatic side in versus this deck. I
Yeah.
think Swordsman level 2, like if you're talking about mirror match or siding against this deck, Swordsman level 2 has to come in. Like again, it's the same theory of them having to waste a Book of Moon. Like they only have Peter has 7 answers or 8 answers for that. But if you can, like Chaos Sorcerer, Book of Moon is one of the biggest defenses, one of the best like setups you could do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're making them eat up one of the Book of Moons early with on a Swordsman, like that's big. If you're making them waste Regeki Break, that's big.
Do you think
But
there's
like
any place in these decks for the revival cards, Call or Premature Burial?
no, but there's place for return.
Okay.
That like revival ish. I think the other card that has that warrants space here is like a card like Reincarnation.
The other card I was going to ask you about, if we go back to Reincarnation as well, is Dark Vision of Chaos for this deck.
To revive one of the spells,
Yeah,
and it'll summon.
you're playing Spies and you're playing Cyberjar, and that's why I was like, I kind of thought maybe not without any, since you're not playing any Call or Premature Burial. But if you did go to a direction where you're playing something like Return, could you see a card like Dark Magician of Chaos?
I think that card is to win more,
Mm-hmm.
to win more-ish. Where like if you lose, it's probably in your hand with like other dead chaos monsters.
Yep.
Where if you play this deck and you've seen yourself lose and you've had those bricky hands where just you don't have a dark or you didn't draw the Thunder Dragon, your
Yeah.
face got knocked early,
Makes total sense.
and yeah, that would definitely. I feel like that would definitely add to it.
Yeah, that I think the two most win more cards in a GOAT format are Dark Vision of Chaos and Deck Devastation Virus.
Yeah, I see deck dev.
Like on paper, they
Like
both sound
it's
amazing,
yeah,
and then as you use them, you're like, well, I just drew this on my opening hand, and if it was anything that was more playable, this could have been a real game.
yeah, exactly. Like you could deck dev against this, but like imagine you deck dev them and you discard like spies and Dekoichis, and the next card they draw is like a Night Assailant, and then they get back a spy.
Well, Night Assailant, I don't think it would get back Spy because it just.
Would it not trigger?
I don't think it count Night Assailant to be discarded. I think it just destroys.
Is it just sent, destroyed or sent?
Yeah, Night Assailant has to be specifically discarded. I think so. I think it would just be destroyed and sent. But for deck dev,
Well,
that's like
yeah.
17 cards this would hit in here, right?
Yeah, deck dev is one of those cards that are super. I guess we could talk about like a few tech choices that I see that can give. Yeah, that could give this like the best deck of the format a big run, like a run for its money. Where like we talked about one being a geometry earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's just being able to lock them out. Deck dev too. Deck dev, you literally hit everything, except obviously they're
Chaos monsters.
chaos monsters.
Yep. Wow, looking at this, it's literally everything but their chaos monsters and their thunder dragons.
Yeah.
That's a ton of
The worst thing
cards.
about deck dev is obviously you need 2,000 attack, which there's very few level 4s that you could do it with. Giant Orc, Zombraya.
I guess I would say if you're playing a warrior aggro deck right now,
Yeah.
a deck dev would not be a bad card to have. Being able
Yeah,
to
it'd
roto
be
the
like a skill
Zombara-
drain.
being able to roto the Zombira and deck dev it. And if you have a Mind Crush, then that's fucking game over, right?
Yeah. Like you could even side, for example, you could side deck dev in this deck type of thing.
Yeah, deck depth being
Because
limited to 1 is probably its
that's the
biggest
worst thing about it.
downfall.
It's being restricted to 1.
If it was at 2 even, you'd be able to make a great like deck around it. But it being at 1 is like you might draw it open in hand, or you might draw it late game when it's completely useless and your opponent only has 2 cards and neither of them are low monsters anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, deck dev, although I would say it has some flaws, it should be on people's radar.
The other card I really like, it's just very hard to use, is King Dragon, where like this deck only has 2 outs to King Dragoon. It has BLS and Cyberdragon.
Yeah, literally. BLS.
Like you drop King
Cyberjar,
Dragoon, and they can't do anything. Like you can freely attack.
Yeah, I mean King Dragoon, you got a lot of ways to bring it out. You could do Cyberstein's probably the most consistent way you're gonna be able to summon it.
Yeah.
And the other would be a Metamorphosis on like the Fusilier Dragon for a level 7.
Fusilier, yeah.
Yeah, no, could definitely blow this deck out the water with just a summoning of 1 card.
Yeah, those are like the obviously like Mind Control is very strong against a deck like this. Kaiku's.
Mind Control, being able to grab a Spy, Magician of Faith, or Dekochi in the mirror match, awesome. Flipping your opponent's Cyberjar before they can flip it on their own turn, always good. So definitely a card you could keep in mind. Using it on Night Assailant's great. However, hitting a Sang and a Sinister, a Mystic Tomato, all could be a big waste of your time too.
Yeah. And it's like it's a good answer card for like after they've answered your play with Sorcerer.
Yeah, sure. Banish the Sorcerer, Banish the BLS.
Yeah.
Great options. And I think the other card that we mentioned a few times now is a Return from the Different Dimension.
Yeah, like that fits. Those are there's so many cards that fit in this deck.
Even for this deck here, replace the Jargreed with the Return. How much more of a broken card could Return be than the Jargreed?
Yeah, like Return could be the comeback card that you needed, right?
Like opening a hand, you're like, well, I wish this was a Jargreed instead. Mid to late game, you're like, oh, I can make my opponent think I'm doing a stupid play by attacking with this here, and oh well, here's Return. That's game.
Yeah.
That's what Simpson was able to do with like the one of Return.
Yeah.
Is definitely a thing. Like my deck was kind of based around being able to use it, but having just the 1 copy of it could just be a game where you're like, wow, there's nothing left in my deck that I could draw. I used all my Chaos monsters already. Oh, I still have 1 copy of Return, so anything could happen.
Yeah.
So what deck do you see Dale winning the next major tournament? The FLC 13 or 14, I believe, is this weekend.
I think it's going to be Go Control.
Yeah, Go Control is ready to make the comeback.
I think so. I think Go Control gives this deck the hardest matchup. This deck needs to side for Go Control.
Go Control with Mobius?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Control with something similar to Krebs' deck, like along those lines, gives this deck gives the Chaos Turbo deck a tough matchup. If P-Tran plays the FLC, then yes, I'll say Chaos Turbo will win because this guy's on like this killer run. But I like Go Control right now, and if a lot of people are starting to notice that it's not that bad of a matchup versus Chaos Turbo.
I think Go Control's got 2 things going for it right now. One is triple Scapegoat, and the other one is Mobius.
I think the third thing that it has going for it is there's no aggro in the format.
Yeah, it doesn't have like its most natural bad matchup is not around as much.
Yeah, like no one's decking Azura Priest unless you're in the mirror match, and
Blade Knight not being played is huge.
Yeah, you're not eating up too much side deck spacing for aggro. The other card that I could see is similar to Commissioner Frost's deck is like another Go Control deck playing cards with like the Samurai number 4.
Mm-hmm. If you were playing Chaos Turbo in the next 2 weeks, do you play Card Destruction?
Yeah.
I think so too.
You still play it. It's like
You still gotta
it's the same.
outbreak too many bad hands and deal with these Thunder Dragons.
Yeah, like you might give them a better hand, but you could draw game, right? And I think it still warrants space.
Where would you
It's
drop a
just
card out of P-Trank's deck for card destruction? The Jar Greed?
Jar Greed,
Yeah.
or maybe like, and I would trade the fourth. For me, in my the way I play, I would trade. I'd try and find the spot for. I might send the Dust Shoots to the side deck for another Solemn and a Mirror Force.
I think one way or another, you need to have either Mirror Force or Torrential Tribute in your side deck for playing in a
Yeah, you
tournament.
need.
Because when you're playing in a
Yeah,
tournament, by day 2, people are going to figure out if you're not maining and siding Mirror Force / Torrential Tribute.
yeah.
And
The
once that
threat
threat is
needs to be
gone,
there.
once the threat's completely gone, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
So,
What makes a Chaos Turbo deck so good is it's really hard to play around like Regeki Breaks and Book of Moons. Like sometimes you just have to make the play.
mm-hmm. What do you think are the best cards to be attacking into back rows with while using against these decks?
What would you attack with? Good stuff to attack with.
Yeah. Would you say like Mystic Swordsman level 2 is a great monster to
Oh,
be
for sure.
attacking into back
Swordsman's
row and
good.
set monsters? And
Azure Priest is surprisingly very good.
so Sewer Priest, like, that's a card you say surprisingly. I agree. On paper, every time I'm like, this card just really doesn't make too much sense. And then over and over, we've seen like 2 to 3 Sewer Priests in main decks like do really well in tournaments.
Yeah, Azure Priest just gets rid of the board presence.
It gets you over all your goat control matchups.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add before we end this?
No, like I'm excited to predict that I'm right that Go Control will win FLC, but if Chaos Turbo comes on top, I wouldn't be surprised.
So we've got one more FLC for sure this month, GFC 9, and then for September we're gonna have GFC 10. I'm not sure if Format Library will offer another FLC in September or not, but GFC 10 will be the last GFC before the Guild Format World Championships. So if you guys are looking to qualify still, I think we are up to $300 in donations for the World Championships. We have a bunch of old school players that are coming back to play. We've got people like Anthony Alvarado, Chris Perovic. Then we have current players like P-Trax, Jazz. It's going to be a pretty high profile tournament. Decent prize.
Yeah.
We're hoping to get up to like $500 in donations for the first place. So looking forward to seeing you guys there. For information to play in the Format Library Championship this weekend, go to formatlibrary.com. And for the GFC, which is the week after, go to goformat.com.
And I have one more thing to incentivize for this weekend. If Go Control wins FLC, I will donate another $100.
So a $100 prize thrown on for anyone that thinks they can win with Go Control. Awesome. We will,
It gets added to the pot of World Championship.
Okay, so if someone
Yeah.
first place,
So if
we'll
Go
boost
Control,
it up
if
to,
my prediction is right,
yep.
and Go Control wins, I'm gonna add another 100. So I'm already donating 100. I'll donate 200 to World Championship.
Awesome. Hope to see you guys there, and now I hope Go Format or Go Control wins. Later, guys.